All right, buddy, are we going anywhere this week? Are we?
Yes.
Yes, we are. We're going back to Japan. We seem to like Japan. So we're going back to Japan, and why is that?
One ticket to Tokyo, please.
Because we're looking at a product this week that is made in Japan, and it is a Panasonic product. It's a Lumix. Is it one of their famous Lumixes? Well, it's a Lumix compact camera, that's right. It's a discontinued camera, but it's still worthy of today in 2024. It is the LX100 Mark II. You keep laughing at, you weirdo.
That's suspicious.
Oh, I know, you think I'm a weirdo too. So anyway, is it any good?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. So let's find out how good, and we'll find out together. So grab yourself something to eat or drink, get yourself comfortable, and let's get it on.
Here I am in Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and his little co-host Dylan, who's outside playing with his toys and watching some kitty stuff on TV. Well, he's telling us he's watching kitty stuff on TV. We know the truth.
Vous êtes comme tous les patrons. Ça vous excite de vous passer votre secrétaire.
Anyway, he may appear at any time, or he may not. He's a finicky little 4-year-old. But anyway, just as the intro says, what are we looking at this week? Well, we're looking at a discontinued compact camera. Now, why are we looking at stuff that you can't buy new anymore? Well, because it's that good. So it's worth finding out there on the used market. And of course, buying stuff used has its pros and cons. But one of the major pros is the fact that you're not paying $1,000 roughly for a brand new camera.
Cheap bastard.
You can buy one for only several $100s. It's kind of nice, right? Some of the cons, of course, is how do you know how the previous owner treated it and so on and so forth. But I've been lucky in that regard, and just about everything, everything on this table and up here and everything is used, right? Except for that lens. I bought that brand new. But anyway, that's because I couldn't find one used. Excuse me. But anyway, we're not here talking about used stuff. We're here talking about a specific camera, compact camera. And the one that we're talking about today, just like the intro says, is the Panasonic Lumix LX100 Mark II. That's right. It's the second generation, the last generation of this camera. They discontinued it, 2 years ago now. It was from 2018 to 2022. And its predecessor, the LX100 Mark I, was from 2014 to 2018. So they have these 4-year runs. But anyway, the LX100 Mark II is a decent little upgrade from the one, and I'll talk about that in a second. But anyhow, this is it here. And again, it's classified as a compact camera, point and shoot. I mean, the lens is fixed on there. It's not interchangeable. It has a zoom capability to it, which many compact cameras do, with exception to my Ricoh GR3 over on the corner there, which has a fixed focal range. But anyway, this one has a zoom that is the equivalent of a 24 to 75 full frame lens. So that's a decent range, right? There's a lot of zooms out there. The working range, as many photographers will call it, the 24 to 70, 24 to 75. But anyway, it's a good range to shoot with. and it is provided to Panasonic by Leica. As you know, I'm also a Leica user.
Whoop-de-fucking-do!
And it is a Summilux. Now it's a DC Vario Summilux, and it is, its aperture range while it's zooming begins at 1.7, which is the best in the market for all other compacts. And when it gets to the long range, it's 75 millimeter, it's stopped down to 2.8, which for many lenses, they start at 2.8. So that's a pretty good range right there, 1.7 to 2.8. So no complaints there. And again, it's a Summilux, it's not quite the Summilux like my Summilux is here, but it's Summilux because of the aperture setting on it. So anyway, it's a nice lens. Now just to talk about the lens specifically by itself before I even get into the camera, I can tell you that it's made up. It's made up of 11 elements in 8 groups. So again, for a small, compact little lens, there's a lot of glass in there. 8 elements in 8 groups. Now to break down those 11, there's 5 aspheric lenses in there. There's 8 aspheric surfaces, and there's 2 dual-sided aspheric ED lenses. And ED is extraordinary low dispersion lenses. Wow, huh? It's a lot of stuff in there to make you go, wow, that's a killer lens. It's not exactly a killer lens, but it's nice. Anyway, for what it is. Anyway, so that's the lens. Now on it gives you an aperture ring, which again many of the other, or actually just about all of the other point and shoots do not offer you. So you have from 1.7 through to f16, and of course it won't budge unless you turn the power on. But 1.7 to f16 and an A in the beginning for auto shoot. It has aspect ratio switch on here. To which many people say, oh, what the hell do you need that for? I could do that in body or whatnot. But hey, it's nice just to have it. It's not like it gets in the way or anything else, so why complain about it, right? And that aspect ratio, we start off at 4:3, 1:1, 16:9, and 3:2. Some people might say, well, who cares about that? Why would you change anything anyway? Well, it just depends. Again, 4:3 is what many people would use. It's the equivalent of like an 8:10 or 5:7 kind of thing. The 1:1, if there's Instagram shooters out there, the 1:1 is square. That's what Instagram has. So instead of shooting in all these other modes and having to crop down into the 1:1, you could just do that right in camera. And the 1:1 is a crop of the 4:3. The other ones are set up that way in the body itself. 16:9 is more the cinematic, long side, and 3:2 is similar to the 4:3, just swapped around the other way. You also have a couple buttons on the side here, and actually a switch. You have autofocus macro, and manual focus. And the macro is kind of a nice feature in here as well. It already has a close focus already, but with the macro you can get into the 3 centimeters. And for those not living in a metric world, 3 centimeters is roughly an inch.
That's how you use it.
And that's pretty close. You can get in there. So that's another nice feature of this lens. So that's the lens itself. It has a focus ring on here, but since I don't use this kind of camera for manual focus, I set my ring to the zoom. the focal length set, because they have a switch on the top here, but it's I don't know. I'd rather use this. You know, it just depends on your own preference on there. So anyway, so that is the lens itself. So there you go. Talked a lot about that, right? Now onto the actual camera itself, the body. There's a lot of features on here, which a lot of the other point and shoots, like the GR3 or the Sonys or the Canons, you know, the big hitters out there with the compact pocketable cameras, as they call them, don't have. Many will have like an exposure dial, which this has, but this one also has a shutter dial as well. And that's how you move from autofocus, or program mode, as you know, as most of the point and shoots are. If you want to get into aperture priority, you just change the aperture ring, or aperture setting to 1.7, 2.8, whatever, and the camera will automatically switch to aperture mode. Now, if you put that back to auto and you change the shutter speed, then this camera automatically switches to shutter priority. Kind of cool, right? And if you change your aperture and your shutter speed, the camera will now set itself into manual, where again, you can manipulate everything from there. And you can go into the menu and set ISO and everything, but use your exposure setting for that, the dial for that purpose. So anyhow, so that's physically what it looks like. And again, it has that wide angle telephoto little switch up top here, or you could do like I do and program the focus ring to do the same thing. It has customizable buttons. So we have FN1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set on there. We have an autofocus, auto exposure lock, button on the back. It has the red video recording button, because this is primarily a photo, picture taking camera, but it does have, decent video recording on here, but it only just has this one single button to turn it on, turn it off. There's really nothing else geared towards the video features. It has obviously the playback mode, display button, and then it has a wheel to move around the various things. ISO, white balance, your metering mode, and shooting mode are the 4 ones that you can press to get to through the wheel. And then of course the menu and set button is right in the middle. Its rear screen, which is one of the complaints that people may have, is the fact that it's not articulating in any way. It doesn't tilt, it doesn't swivel out, doesn't do any of that. It's set in there.
They suck. They just suck.
And that's probably due to the fact they wanted to keep it compact. So they just embedded it in there. It bothers a lot of people. Doesn't bother me. Even if I'm shooting down low, I'm pretty good at gauging the angle, the angle of the lens, so that even if I'm low, I can still kind of blindly guess at where my target is. And same with high shooting, for those who want to see up, just adjust that way. And once you practice with a while, you get pretty good at it. It's kind of like zone focusing and stuff like that. You get used to. You get used to being able to target your subjects without having to pull it up to your eye or whatnot. So anyhow, so that's the screen's 3-inch, 1.2 million dot. So its resolution is not bad. It's not the greatest, but it's not bad. It has electronic viewfinder, to which out of all the compact cameras, again, it's pretty decent. Decent quality, 2.76 million dot. So So again, it's not bad. It's got the same as the LX100 Mark 1. It has a diopter on the side, so you can, for those with funky eyesight like mine, see far away or up close, whatever, you can adjust it accordingly. It has a proximity sensor, so when you bring it up to your face, it turns off the LCD on the back, save some battery life. One of the cool things too, though, is while you've got it up to your eye, you can use your thumb on the back to, change the focus point. Just move your thumb across the thing, and you'll see in the viewfinder the little focus crosshairs will change, so you can center it on what you're looking for. So that's kind of cool in that regard. What else can I tell you? Well, the sensor, again, another thing that sets it apart from its other big brothers and sisters and
his brother from another mother,
little brothers and sisters out there in the market, is the sensor is a micro four thirds MOS sensor. Now, a lot of it, you read stuff online from a lot of these other sites, and they'll call it a CMOS sensor, which it is not. It's an MOS sensor, no C in there, because a CMOS uses logic 1 and 0, the binary ones and zeros out there, to transfer its data. An MOS sensor only uses 1.
Why I hate math.
A series of ones. So anyway, it's it's different technology. Let's call it that. Not that, again, it's not a showstopper out there. But anyway, it is a 21.7 megapixel sensor, and again, micro four thirds. But the actual workable megapixels out of that is only 17.
What?
So you may think, well, what the heck? Why make a again 21 or 20 megapixel camera if you can only use 17? Well, it's because, again, back to the lens. Now the lens is again, it's pancake size while it's turned off, but they wanted to try to keep that as compact as possible. So due to the size of the lens, the actual image circle the light that comes through the lens only hits 17 megapixel equivalent on the sensor. So it's not seeing the entire 21 megapixels that are out there. So again, not a showstopper. The original LX100 Mark 1 was only 14 megapixels. So again, it's a little higher number of megapixels in there. And other than that, it tends to work. Now again, back to the ratio aspects too. The 4:3 is the one that uses the entire 17 megapixel image sensor being picked up by the lens. You stop down to the next one is 3:2, which is why I said it's just kind of an opposite orientation. It uses 16 megapixels, and then the 16:9, which is the more of the cinematic look on it, uses 15 megapixels, and the 1:1, which is a crop of the 4:3, only uses 13 megapixels. It may seem like, oh my God, you're losing all these megapixels. But again, when you're, for most of us, who are we showing our photos to anyway? It's mostly online in Facebook or Instagram or one of the other social media places. So people looking at it on their phone, there's no way they can tell the difference between a 13 megapixel photo and a 17 megapixel photo. So it doesn't matter. It sounds dramatic and sounds like, oh my God, you're losing all these megapixels. But it's not that bad, believe me. So with that said, thinking about frames per second, how quickly it takes its photos. Now, depending on which autofocus mode that you're in, the AFC, continuous, is 5.5 frames per second. The AF single can go 11 frames per second, and the 4K. It's one thing with the 4K, also with the video. It has 4K, so you have 4K photo burst and 4K video. Now at that point, you can actually get 30 frames per second burst. And one of the beauties is you can I guess shop through those 30 photos looking for the exact one you want and save it. It'll give you an option to save that particular frame. Now again, you're losing megapixels in that setup, but it's not that bad. Anyway, so it's kind of a cool feature in itself. So the close focus I talked about already, 3 centimeters at the closest end. When you're out to 75 millimeters, it's 30 centimeters, which is still pretty good for close focus. I mean, look at my fancy schmancy Summilux here is 70, so more than half of that is a close focus for this little guy. So that works pretty good. It has a cell phone app. We all use our cell phones, right? We all keep them with us all the time. That cell phone app is great for syncing up your camera to either transfer, download photos straight from here onto your phone. It has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, which is again one of the upgrades from the Mark I. And again, you can use it for remote shooting, so you could set this up and then go situate yourself in front of the camera, see what you look like, get your framing composition right, everything, boop, hit the button and take a picture of yourself. You could do remote control that way as well, and the other features in the app as well. But anyhow, so that's kind of cool in it. It also, some of the other features, it has a post focus option, so you can take your photos if you have that turned on. Take your photos and then afterwards pull up those photos and decide where, if the focus wasn't quite on what you wanted, you can change the area of focus. Because obviously through stacking, it will find the one that is in focus on that particular subject or area or whatever, and create that as your photo to keep. That's pretty cool. So it does allow focus stacking, as I just said. It has time lapse for video, which is kind of cool for those creative-minded ones out there who want to do such a thing. It has, the operating system inside it. It's called Venus engine, and one of the things it is programmed to do is reduce the moire, which, if you know, that is when you got any kind of funky patterns like lines or diagonal, it creates that wavy, weird, effect like this. See what I mean? So it reduces that, and that's great. Great in itself. So what else can I say? The monochrome L, monochrome D is one of the things that people rave about as well. It's their black and white, monochrome, but it has various film grades to it that, again, for artistic value, people find the monochrome in the Lumix line is kind of much better than the others. Let's just say that. And show you some pictures of Dylan using that feature here. What do you think? Looks pretty good, right? And that's straight out of camera. There's no post editing or anything going on there. So so that's great. Anyhow, what else can I really talk about with this that I haven't said already? Well, other features besides the back to the lens. Keep jumping back to that. Besides its elements and group setup, its close focus, it has 9 aperture blades, so it can retain circular bokeh balls as it stops down, and we like our balls round, right?
Say everybody haven't seen my balls.
And the weight of it is 392 grams, so that's about 0.8 or so of a pound. So it's not heavy. One of the other upgrades from the Mark I is it has USB charging, so you can plug the sucker in instead of having to go buy yourself a an external charger, which I have because I bought this used, but it came with it, so I have a charger already for it. So that's kind of cool. Just plug it into my computer here. But on the go or whatnot, plug it in USB. Now, of course, it has to be turned off. It doesn't have charging while operating features as some cameras will. But still, it's nice to be able to charge it on the go kind of thing. If you have a battery pack or something else, you can charge it in that regard. So I told you it has 5 customizable buttons and ring on there. Now, some of the cons, I guess we can briefly go over. The lens is a little different from this. Its closest brother or sister is the Leica Deluxe 7. It's pretty much the spitting image of this thing, but there are minor tweaks to it, which is why it's $400 more than this one. One of them is Leica's color lineup in there is different than this one, and the coatings on the lens tend to be a little better, I would say, because they don't have the issues that this one has. If you're pointing directly in the sun or whatnot, you're gonna get some wild flaring and
deal with it. Okay, and you're welcome.
And ghosting. One of the other cons may be, some people have reported getting dust on the sensor because when the camera turns on and turns off, as it turns off, it retracts, and when it retracts, it may pull dust and other things into the body of the camera that could get on your sensor. I've had this one for 2 years now, I do believe. It's roughly about 2 years. I've had no issues with it. This is the one I always give to Dylan to play with.
I'm a fucking artist. I'm sensitive as shit.
Kind of an expensive toy to play with for a 4-year-old, but hey, getting him into photography a little early, he takes actually some pretty good pictures, whether he knows he's doing it or not. But anyway, he's off to a good start anyhow. The build quality, this thing is all metal. There's a little plastic in here, obviously the focus ring and the eye cup here and the battery door, things like that are plastic, but there's also a lot of metal on here, which is thus the weight to it, which is nice because it feels substantial, feels like you're holding a camera versus like my GR3, which is very plasticky. Feels like it. So very different sensation. It has a hot shoe up top. It has no built-in flash like some of the other small compacts will have. It does come with a small flash on top that you can log in there and boom, off it goes. I don't really do flash photography, so I've never used it, so I can't tell you how good it is or not. But anyway, it comes with one anyway in that regard. Now, like I said, if you're getting it used, you may not get one because depending on who you buy it from, they may have thrown it away or lost it or broke it or who knows. But anyhow, I was lucky with when I bought mine that it came with everything, even the stuff I didn't ask for. So anyhow, so the build quality is nice. The grip, I mean, it's not obviously not a big grip like on my A7R or my M10 or things like that, or even the GR3 has a kind of a nicer grip on it. But it does have something for your fingers to grab on it, and it has a thumb bit on the side here. So really only a couple fingers can hold it, and my third finger kind of holds it up. And that's about it. Again, it's a compact camera. What do you expect, right? Now, for people with giant hands, you're probably not going to be happy with it, but then you wouldn't be happy with any of them out there. I mean, the things like the, you know, the Sony and the Leica and whatnot don't have any grip whatsoever. They're just flat, so they're pretty tough to hold onto, single-handed. Anyway, so with that said, that's pretty much all the features I can think of to tell you about. Now, as much as the range goes up to f/16, really your sharpest points will get to about 5.6. After that, diffraction begins to take effect, and I don't want to go beyond that. But hey, at 5.6, you got everything in sharp, you know, within distance. It's going to be sharp anyway, so don't worry about it. I'm going to do what I usually do, which is take a photo of my Canon M50, which I use to record these videos. And what I do is try to focus in on the nameplate, the writing on the nameplate, and see, you know, how sharp I can get that. So let's start at, this is at 24, at the widest range. And yeah, let me get focus right in where I can. Oh, look who just joined us, Mr. Dylan. Hello, Mr. Dylan. Hang on, let me take a... All right, you're going to interrupt me regardless of what I do. So, let's welcome Dylan. Dylan McDonald. How are you? Say, how are you?
Oh, and
You're all right?
I'm Dylan.
Your name's Dylan. Yes, you are. And what do you have to show us today? What is that?
I put it here.
Huh? You gonna put that down there? What is it? All right, so what's that?
Monster truck.
Monster truck. And what's this one?
Truck.
Just a truck. All right, you're leaving?
Okay.
All right, well, thanks for dropping by. Shut the door. All done. No, I'll take your truck. Uh-huh. All right, thank you. All right, bye-bye. All right, wow. That didn't contribute one tiny iota of content to our camera talk, but hey.
What the fuck is that?
Don't mess with Dylan. That 4-year-old will come back to kick your butt. Anyway, back to what I was trying to do here. All right, so my focus point in on the end of the camera. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right. Now let's change it again. I use my my focus ring to change the focal length of the lens. So again, now let me lock in on the end of the camera here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, so that was 24 millimeter, 75 millimeter. So you can see the difference. So you can see it's not exactly the fastest zoom in the world, but again, for all the other features that come along with it, it's not bad. Can't really complain. What else can I say? Battery life you know, the battery is a decent, you know, decent size for a small camera like this. It's, you know, it lasts, well, depending on how much you shoot, of course, but, you know, if you're just out randomly taking shots here and there, it's going to last you all day. If you're constantly bang, 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 you know, shooting things left and right, you'll probably need a backup, you know. And so you could buy other Lumix batteries, or you could buy third-party ones, which people go, oh, don't buy those cheap Chinese ones. I buy them all the time. They last me for years. No problem.
Ancient Chinese secret.
And the money I save on them, hey, I can spend them on spend that money on other things. So anyhow, you know, besides the USB charging here, obviously have a HDMI outlet as well if you want to hook it up to your TV and have a slideshow across that or whatever. I don't know anybody actually does that, so I don't know. One of the downsides, again, talk about the cons, or continuing with the cons, is there's no microphone jack or headphone jack in here or anything. Are you coming back? You coming back to see us? So anyway, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to really demonstrate and talk about with the camera. So here's some pictures of Dylan using the camera as well. Yeah.
Daddy.
Yes. Yeah, I know you showed us those already. That was pretty good of you. So can we recommend it? Can we recommend the camera?
Yeah.
Yes, it's worth it. It's worth it for sure. Oh, Dylan wants a hug. That's so nice. Daddy love you too. Besides recommending it, what else can we really say? You know, obviously you can't buy it brand new, so check it out on eBay or KH or B&H and whatever, Amazon. You can find these things all over the place, and get yourself one. I mean, they're a decent camera. Maybe, you never know, maybe Panasonic may put out an LX100 Mark III. Maybe. Who knows? But if they don't, then you can live with this one for a while, because it's, hey, it's a decent camera. I mean, for all the things that it can do, can't complain. So anyhow, how about our little plug for our photo editing software that we use? And you know, same thing. I'll pull up my LX100 Mark II photos in the software, and I get it because I shoot RAW as well as JPEG. You know, I don't really use the JPEGs out of camera, but I use them to look at to see which ones which RAW files I want to keep, instead of pulling them all up in the software and waiting for them to load and everything else. So that's that's my workflow anyway. But who do I use? I use Luminar. Luminar Neo is their latest, greatest offering. And, you know, one of the things that I really, truly like about the Lumix, or Luminar, I say Lumix the other time, Luminar and Lumix, too close. The Luminar family is the fact that it uses a lot of AI, right? And why do I like that? Because it helps me. Anything that can help Dr. Scott, I'm keen on it. You know,
this mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
You know, speeds up my workflow, saves me having to do so many different things that I know many other people enjoy all that stuff, and good for you. I'd rather get to the end as quick as possible. And so with the AI, it has all kinds of features that can just really speed up things. The one that I you know, there's a few that I actually like more than others, and one is if you go in the erase tool, they have a button down below called spot and dust removal. So let's say you're down at the beach taking some photos of some hot babes while the wife's busy looking the other way or off to get a drink somewhere and come back later. So you got some pictures of some hotties. You get home, again, making sure the wife's not around. Pull it up on the screen. And maybe they weren't quite as hotty as you thought they were, because I'm getting on in years and maybe my eyesight's not as great as it used to be. But what I also notice in the background are some spots up in the air. Now, some of them are seagulls. You know, you have a flock of seagulls. No, I mean the birds. And in amongst them could be some other spots. And you're like, what are those spots anyway? Well, it turns out that you may have a dirty sensor or a dusty sensor. You know, in this case, as I said, some dust may get in on the sensor. But if you pull that up in Luminar and click on that button, it can analyze your photo, recognize the difference between those little seagulls up in the air and those spots, and it will remove the spots and leave the seagulls alone. That's kind of cool, yeah? Anyway, the other one that I think is pretty cool is power line. Power line removal. That's right. Same thing. You know, you're out there taking some photos of some old houses and in abandoned property or whatever, and you think, wow, this might look pretty cool hanging over my fireplace. Take some shots. You get home, pull them up on the monitor, and lo and behold, you're a dumbass and stood in the wrong place, and you've got the lovely building right there, and in between you and the lovely building is a big power pole with these lines, power lines all over. Hey, yeah. So you click on that button, and it will analyze your photo again and remove those power lines. Now, it's not perfect.
You talking to me?
Nothing ever is. But, you know, considering the situation, I mean, if it's out in the middle of nowhere and you want to remove power lines, it'll probably get them all for you in one shot. But in this situation, because there's lines on the building and everything else, it may confuse some lines with the building lines or whatever, the power lines, and not erase them. So in that case, you might have 4 or 5 that you have to brush over, you know, with the erase tool and get rid of them yourself. But for the most part, it will get rid of a majority of the power lines for you. And that itself, again, is very cool. It has things like background removal. You know, let's say you don't like this background and you want to put something else out there, like I'm sitting in a river at my desk saying something about it being completely different.
And now for something completely different.
And, you know, who knows, that background. Why you would want to do that, I don't know, but hey, the option is yours. It can have things like scenery lighting, where if you have, you know, your subject's looking this way and the light is this way, but you would think maybe the light would be a little better coming from this direction, it'll subtly add light in this area to raise the light up on this side. Kind of cool. It's not a spotlight or anything, miracle light or anything, but it's still cool. It has things like masking AI. If you want to mask a lot of different things, it can intelligently figure out the various subjects in your photo and, you know, again, mask out the other stuff. That, again, saves a lot of time. Sky replacement, you know, which is nothing fancy. A lot of software has sky replacement already out there too, but it's still something to talk about. And many others. There's a lot of other stuff out there that Luminar can do that speeds up your workflow. So that's why I like it. The other reason I like it too is it's economical. You know, it's not too expensive compared to some of the others that we have out there. And if you know, looking to save some money, click on the link in the description below. I have a link that'll take you to Skylum. If you purchase Luminar through that link, it'll deduct like $10 or so off of your purchase. Why not, right? Save some money. What do they do with that $10?
Talk it up, man.
Well, besides that, they give it to me so that I could do that with the $10. But anyway, it's worth it. And another reason to support them as well is they're located in Ukraine. And everybody knows the kind of crap that's going on there from Mr. Putin. So you'd be supporting them while bombs are dropping and things are happening in their country. So kudos to them to keep this thing going and keep upgrading and everything else. Again, upgrades are free. Everything that comes along, you just download the latest, greatest version of it, and voila, it'll fix bugs and add features and other things to it. So very cool. Other than that, how about you support our channel? And I don't mean financially, unless you really want to.
Oh, yes.
But I mean by things like subscribe. That's right, subscribe to the channel. Since I'm left-handed, subscribe. That's right. And did you hear me? Well, you could tell your mom, tell your dad, your aunts and uncles. Subscribe. That's right. And if the aunt and uncles weren't available, how about your third or fourth cousins? That's right. They can subscribe too, if you show them how. But anyway, what else does YouTube like besides subscribers? Well, besides that, everybody likes that too. Well, they like the thumbs up, right? So you give us a thumbs up, and we'll give you a taste of Dylan's little hot girlfriends, the Thumbs Up Girls. And since he's not here to complain about that, I can just tell you it's got a sweet little song called something like this. Thumbs up, do 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 do, thumbs up. Aren't they cute? He likes the little blonde one in the front. If he was in here now, I'd be like, hey, get your hands off her. Anyhow, so thumbs up, subscribe, and what else? Well, who are we? And we, I mean Dr. Scott, and I mean Dylan. And collectively,
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
we're all Modesty Photography. We're here to talk about tips and tricks about photography, vintage lenses, vintage cameras, camera systems, camera stuff, adapters, microphones, tripods, filters, camera stuff. Anyway, that's what we're all about. And we try to do one of these videos every week. Every Friday we release them, and if not every Friday, maybe every other Friday, and who knows, depends on how busy we get. But for the most part, every Friday. And remember where we are. We're in Vietnam, right?
Good morning, Vietnam!
So Vietnam could be the day before you, the day after you, or the same day as you, depending on the funky time zone that you're in. So anyway, so why, you think you should come back every week? I think so. Why? Because you belong here. That's right. And where do you belong? Well, this was Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and a little co-host Dylan, who made some appearances but decided not to come back. All right, so
Fuck off.
forget you. Anyhow, so come on back next week and we'll do this all again. Well, something different, but something similar. All right, so thank you for dropping by. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you for buying a copy of Luminar. Thank you for just being you. All right, so other than that, I think you're free to go. So, you want to come say bye-bye? Come on. No? All right. Dylan says bye-bye. All right, I say bye-bye. See ya.
Here I am,